another beautiful day in California. Out here, I'm one of the good guys.
His particular area of expertise and area of interest is returning lost people, lost men, women, boys, girls to their families. So he sees a lot of ugliness. He's involved in the kind of exploration of a lot of criminality, but somehow his belief in the human experience and the potential for human beings to be a cause for good is undiminished. And that was one of the most lovely things about the character, because as you said, in the noir genre, the characters have a certain edge to them. They have been understandably rendered fatigued and jaded and kind of somewhat embittered at times by the cruelty that they've seen around them, and by the duplicity and the deceit and the ugliness of greed and violence.
Hello, Colin. How are you?
I'm good, Daniel. Hey, Shahbaz.
We are so delighted and thankful for you sharing your time with us on the Movie Podcast today. We just had to start off by saying we absolutely adore you, and you've been part of some of our favorite films of all time. So this is incredible.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks very much for saying that.
Absolutely. And
even if it's not true, I'm joking.
No,
no,
thank you so
much. It's very true.
Thank you so much.
We reenact SWAT all the time. I promise you.
That's going back, man. That's going way back.
One of my favorites, man. One of our favorites.
Thank you so much.
And we're absolutely loving Sugar. It's a show that we've never really seen anything like this before, and it really caught us by surprise. And we're like, okay, we'll do one episode, and then like 10 minutes later, we're like, okay, let's do another couple more. So thank you so much. What a wicked show.
How many did they give you?
All of it.
They gave us the whole series. We have not finished it yet, though. So
we're not done yet.
But we're really just holding back. We had to do the interviews today, so we're like, we need to stop watching it.
Oh,
so
sweet. That's cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And, something we love so much about your character, John Sugar, is just how empathetic he is, how he leads with kindness, which is something we don't often see in a genre like this. So we're curious, how does a man like John Sugar survive in a world like his? Somehow his
sense of hope in the face of kind of so much pain and suffering and violence, because obviously he's a private detective, and his particular area of expertise and area of interest is returning lost people, lost men, women, boys, girls to their families. So he sees a lot of ugliness. He's involved in the kind of exploration of a lot of criminality, but somehow his belief in the human experience and the potential for human beings to be a cause for good is undiminished. And that was one of the most lovely things about the character, because as you said, in the noir genre, the characters have a certain edge to them. They have been understandably rendered fatigued and jaded and kind of somewhat embittered at times by the cruelty that they've seen around them, and by the duplicity and the deceit and the ugliness of greed and violence. And this character has lived in those worlds. He swam in those waters, but his cynicism hasn't kicked in yet. He's still a really hopeful character who believes in the potential of human beings. As I said, he believes in the power of kindness. He believes in decency, and he believes in honesty to a fault. And he has absolute disdain for violence, even though he's quite capable himself. So there was these just lovely little contradictions to what was, quintessentially a noir detective, but there was these lovely little contradictions to what I was used to seeing before from the Sam Spades and stuff. They're all hard-boiled and beautiful because of it. And I love noir, but it was just a little bit of a different kind of lens to see that world through.
Absolutely. And we love that so much about this show. And one of the great things as well about it is, and just right behind you as well, you have that really cool Stingray in the back, the little toy version. It's awesome. It's such a great car. How much of that car and how much did driving those streets of LA really like?
Oh my God, I loved it. I loved it. I had such fun. Anytime we had to shoot a scene in the car, I was thrilled, because often now, they use I don't know what the technical terms are, the light systems now. Often in things, and I've used them in shows before, and I've used them in films, and we did a little bit of that for this, but we did a lot of practical driving around the streets of LA at night, during the day, and it's just always exciting when you're sticking a camera onto a car, you're on the back of a truck, or there's a truck in front of you with two cameras, and you're following that truck and going lane to lane. It was just exciting. I get a bit of a kid in a sweet shop Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get very excited. That car was also a character in the film. It's just another Sugar is someone who I think has kind of idealized a time gone by that no longer exists, and that idealization takes form in his visiting to his local cinema house and his local picture house and watching old noir films and the driving of this car and the appreciation for the kind of tactility of old-fashioned cars and the shape of them and the lines of them and how aggressive they are to drive at times. So it was another little kind of door to experience the character through.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's fascinating, and it's truly a stunning show. And really quickly as we wrap up, Colin, we had the lovely opportunity to speak with Mike Marino a couple years back, and what a lovely gentleman, had such amazing thing to say about you. Obviously,
I love Mike Marino so much. Yeah, we've been through it now. We just wrapped the Penguin show about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and we are just so excited for that. We cannot wait to see you in that and then the Batman again. So thank you so much for your time. Honestly, you're
Thanks,
truly wonderful, and we hope we get to talk to you again.
Lads, thanks a million. I hope to talk to you down the road.
Thank you.
Take care. All the best.
Hi, Kirby. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing so good. Thank you so much for asking.
I like your themed hat. You're repping you're repping Los Angeles, but it feels in keeping with the show.
Thank you for recognizing that. I really appreciate it. No one else has it yet. Colin didn't even call out my Batman shirt yet. I was like, come on,
my!
Colin.
Oh, you've got both shows. You are This is some real Colin fandom.
Well, yes, definitely is. I mean, also fandoms of you were, like I said, we're huge fans of yours.
Yeah.
We loved everything you've done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we still think about your Sandman arc, and to see the show, just incredible. So yeah, we're huge fans of yours.
Thank you so much.
We have to start off again by saying congratulations on this show. This is absolutely phenomenal. We're dying to finish it. We had to do these interviews, so we had to unfortunately stop watching it. But it's absolutely fantastic, and your character of Ruby just keeps us on our toes throughout. And I'm curious, what was about her that you really fell in love with her as a character?
So the character of Ruby was pitched to me by Sherry Thomas, who is an incredible casting director. She also cast Barry, and she pitched the role as Ruby is to Sugar what M and Q are to James Bond. And that to me felt like a really incredible jumping off point. It felt like a character that had the potential to do so much, to play with power dynamics, to push that character in a way that no other character could. So I was in.
That's fantastic. And what we love so much about her, she's like, you keeping us on our toes a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're just like, you know that she's there to help, but also just like, well, there's a history here. There's more to her.
We fully trust you yet. You
right.
know?
Absolutely. Well, I think what's really fun about this show is it is a noir, but it's a neo-noir, right? It's new, it's contemporary, but it's honors the sort of classic setups and classic dynamics that a noir has, which, the characters, the archetypes. And I think that the thing about that genre that people love is that things are never as they seem, and you're trying to uncover something about everyone. And I think everyone in Sugar has an element of that. There is something to be uncovered, and so Sugar is on this journey of discovery, and so is the audience.
Very true. And you have such an amazing chemistry with Colin as well. You two just really get along with what we're seeing in the show. What was that like, kind of building that with him?
Well, Colin is really easy to get along with. I don't know if you guys have interviewed him yet, but he is very lovely and amiable in interviews, and he is like that in real life. I think that from what I felt and from my time working with him, it is so much about the work, and he's professional but also personable, and I think it just becomes easy to build a rapport. And I think, whenever you are building characters that are close, you end up getting very close with your co-star because you guys are hanging out when, in between takes and things like that. So you just sort of build a rapport, and that came very naturally. It was very easy, and I'm very happy that it translated on screen.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. One of the things that we spoke to Colin about was how, John Sugar is such an empathetic character. He leads with kindness, and it really shows that as well.
Yeah.
Something we also love about this series is how in love with movies it is. And I think that Sugar wears that on its sleeve, I'm curious for you, what were you looking at? Were you going back and watching any classic films, or you were looking at any characters to really get your mindset within the world?
When this role came about, I am familiar with film noir, but I'm not, I didn't feel like I think it's a very typical of film school and that sort of education to really, really have this encyclopedic knowledge of that. And there are a lot of us who don't have that sort of knowledge of it. But for me, I was given some touchstones, Chinatown, and then, I sort of followed Faye Dunaway's work, and you go through that sort of stuff, and you find those touchstones essentially to sort of like those ways into this genre. But what I really appreciated when I watched it, because as an actor, you are really only privy to one part of the production process, and it's your part. You don't really know what has come before. You get the scripts, but they've had a whole life before they make it to you. And then the show has a completely different life after, when it goes into editing. And I had no idea the way classic noirs would be cut into the show. And I felt like not only did it pay homage to them, and also it's sort of a nod of the hat to people who love those genres, it also felt like an education. It was sort of a crash course in noir for people who weren't familiar with that genre.
It's very cool. It's very cool seeing those intercut, because when we were first watching, we're like, oh, is this like temporary footage? We're like, is this something that they're like, no, like this is.
It makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense when you're seeing the show and how it all unfolds. It's really incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Kirby, thank you so much for your time. Like we said, we absolutely love you, and we love the show so far, what we were seeing. We can't wait for more people to see it, and we hope we get to talk to you in the future.
I would love that. Thank you, guys.
Simon, Audrey, how are you both doing?
Good.
Great.
We are so delighted to be talking with both of you today. We are absolutely in love with the show. We have not finished it yet because we had to talk with you guys. But we're just, it is incredible. And we're just so happy.
It was hard to stop watching.
It was very hard to stop watching.
It's awesome. Thanks.
Great.
Excited for you to finish it.
Yes, we're very excited to get there. And, we love how in love Sugar is with movies. And obviously we can relate to that. I know you guys can as well too. Where did that idea begin, and what were, some films or characters that you really wanted to make sure made it into the show?
It really came from Mark Portasevich, who was the creator of the show and wrote the first couple episodes and others. He himself is a real cinephile, and he loves film noir and this particular genre of movies. He loves lots of genres, but this one especially. And so it started from there. It appealed to Audrey and I because we are also film lovers. And when we read the script, we saw the opportunity to actually be a love letter to cinema in general. And then it evolved with Fernando Morales, who's an extraordinary filmmaker who loves film as well, and with Colin, who also is incredibly film literate. And so the conversations were about what are the movies that are influences, what are the movies that feel like they're relevant, and where can we actually adopt the things we love from them, but also innovate so that what we're doing is something new and fresh and feels different from those original films. And there's tons of movies. I mean, the movie references would be the rest of today's conversation.
Yeah.
And beyond.
Very true.
We talked a lot about Chinatown, Long Goodbye. We talked a lot about detective movies that take place in Los Angeles, because we love LA-based stuff.
You definitely see it. And one of the things that we loved about this show so much is how different and unique it is from your average neo-noir detective show, especially with a character like Chon Sugar, always leading with kindness and just with so much empathy. So, we'll start off with you, Audrey. Why do you think right now is the best time to bring a noir detective show?
I think that right now the world is experiencing a ton of challenges and chaos. And with a detective show, I feel like usually that person is able to make sense of the world around them. And especially someone like Chon Sugar, who has kindness and a sensitivity and a thoughtfulness to his work, that's something we all need in this world today. So I think it was a perfect time with that character and using this genre to explore humanity.
Yeah, and that's something that we were so excited to talk with Colin about, is how his character very much leads with kindness, and and as we spoke, like how the show is set in LA, it's shot there, and you have like an incredible just like the Stingray, which we just anytime that was on screen, we're just like, this feels like a character itself.
Coolest car ever.
It's a very cool
And
car.
Colin has one in his room. You guys don't have one though.
Yeah, we don't. We had one in another room, but we're gonna get
We'll
one.
get one.
Yeah. we were just at lunch saying how we want to steal one. Actually, steal one of the little ones, not the actual real ones.
Right.
Yeah.
We're gonna cut this part out. Don't worry.
I know for both of you, when you're working on a show like this, you have an incredible cast. You have somebody like Colin who really just is really leading the charge. What was it about him that really inhabited who John Sugar was?
I mean, I think the thing that's so fascinating about Colin and compelling about him is that he combines this like really strong leading man charisma and capability and strength with a vulnerable human, like you're saying, kind, sensitive side to him as well. It's naturally, fundamentally who he is as a man, and it also translates into who he is as an actor. And one of the things I also think is unique about Colin is that he's got movie star leading man looks, which in some ways I think for him feels more like a burden than a blessing. Because he's also a chameleon character actor, right?
Yes.
And so when you combine those two things, I think it also is the sort of big, strong, leading man, matinee idol thing with the more human, more vulnerable character actor side. And that all went into the blender to make Sugar.
No, and you see it, and truly, we are in love with this show. We're so excited to see where it goes. And for both of you, thank you so much again for your time. We're delighted with it. We hope to talk to you both again, and all the best with the rest of your interviews.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.